Hello Connective, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you don't know how I work, I put a bunch of different cards from different decks on the table that tell a story and we talk about it. If you like the content on this channel, feel free to subscribe. Don't smash anything. And with that being said, let's get into this energy. So this is a collective reading for Cancer. Let's see what's going on for Cancer. Read the energy today. These are all shuffled. Let's see if we can get some jumpers to come out and see what's going on in the energy for Cancer. You know, I wanted to say to everybody, I might have to say this 12 times, but I really appreciate the comments that people have been leaving in the videos. You know, just really just letting me know like where you are or how, you know, the video, you know, how you received the video. It's really helpful to just, you know, kind of see the people on the other end. So, you know, definitely if you would like to comment or if you have, you know, a story. I have also talked about, I have a Facebook group. There's not a lot of people in it. It's fairly new. In the beginning, I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do with it. This video was actually created to be like a, I don't know, like a support for that. So also that is a forum where, you know, if anybody, again, wanted to talk or share things, you know, of course, meet us over there. I'm going to go through these one more time. I see two of the cards that you got. I won't see them all. Let's see. Yeah. More sense here. Oh, okay. Should I go through it again? I'm just gonna go through it again. That might have been me being clumsy, but I don't know, I just feel like there'd be more cards if that was the case. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. Let's see what we got. Okay. So we have a storm warning. And, you know, we always like to start with the people. Look at him. All right. Ooh, we got three doors? Yeah. Okay. Okay. What's this? Okay. Okay. So, Cancer, first we have the third chakra, Archangel Chamuel. So I do, yeah, power center. All right. So that's on this side. And then we have, the thinking woman. All right, figure out what that's about. Could be a lot of things. There's a lot going on here. So then we have that storm warning card, and for a persona we have Deceit. Deceit came out for you. We'll figure out what that's about. Put him up there. And then financial constraints. Oh, and it's Buddy all tied up, so we'll put those over there. Now check this out. We have the door to spirit. That's the first one I saw. Door to spirit, usually spiritual awakening, you know, enlightenment. We have the door to value. Door to value is anything, anything you have, anything you want, anything you are. Could be a relationship, could be, you know, a child, it could be anything. Your door to value could literally be, you know, what you value. And then we have door to personal healing and happiness. So we have financial constraints and door to personal healing and happiness. We'll figure out what that's going on. What's going on with that too. Again, lots of doors. I'm trying to remember who had the doors last time. Here, let's ask else what's going on. Again, these are shuffled. Storm warnings, financial constraints, and all tied up with deceit. And all this like fortune. Let's see what's going on. What's going on for Cancer? Manage to be glad. Okay. Well, manage to be glad is usually after the ending of something. You need to find the silver lining. A lot of times you got out of something, you don't even realize how bad it was or how bad it could have been, perhaps. And we're still like wishing and wanting for that thing that left us that wasn't even really worthy of us or our attention. because a lot of times there's stuff going on behind the scenes that's deceitful, and you're playing wholeheartedly. So when somebody meets you with that energy, a lot of times things will end on their own just because you're protected. Oh, look, we got 4. Who's the hider? Lead the way. Okay, so manage to be glad. I'll put that one here for now. All right, well, yep. Yeah, lead the way. So usually that is also like you've overcome something. You need to show others. You can't go back to yesterday. Be in the present. You can't go back to yesterday. It's usually another card that comes out with manage to be glad, because a lot of people, you know, they get nostalgic about what they know when they're trying to move into something that they don't know, and they get scared. They kind of want to go back there, and it's not really what's back there. It's just the thing that they don't want to face. It's just easier to kind of put focus back there. This is wake up. There's a possibility that somebody is really holding on to something. What do we have? Let's do moons. We always do them in that order anyway, but now I really want to see what the blind spot is. Let's see what other signs are involved with you, Cancer. Wow. Release your blocks. First quarter moon in Scorpio. All right. We're going to take it because of the way it jumped out of my hand. It's all the way over there. All right. We got Scorpio on the table. I hope the Scorpio is not being deceitful, Cancer. I don't know if I want to start the habit of apologizing for all Scorpios. I've been there, I know. Sometimes it's just, wow. All right, let's see if we can get like 2 more moons to jump. I didn't even touch that card, did I? It's just sitting there. Okay, we got more than 2 moons to jump. All right, let's see. All right, so yeah, this is first quarter Scorpio. We've got, this one was the closest to me. New moon in Aquarius, open up change. Yep, here we go, moving forward. Full moon in Capricorn, take a reality check. This reminds me of that wake up card. And then full moon in Aries, cool your emotions. You could be the storm. And if that's the case, then these 3 cards right here make sense. Because if you're upset and you're trying to deal with something or someone, I know financial constraints isn't really like related to a relationship, but it sort of is. Your love and your money are tied together. If you're in a situation that's undesirable, or you're experiencing it a lot, it's really undesirable, and you're like stuck in it, you know, for long enough, it could mess with stuff. Let's see what the blind spot is. Let's see what the blind spot is for Cancer. There's our shuffle. You know what? Let's just get a card. I mean, it's not too terrible here on the table. I mean, Deceit is kind of funky. Nobody likes that, but you know, some Deceit's really terrible, and then some Deceit's just terrible. You know what I mean? It's like, I hate to say it like that. And sometimes it's you doing it to yourself, you know, honestly. I mean, we can do the most damage to ourselves more than anybody else. We're the ones that are with us all the time, right? We can just do damage 24/7 if we wanted to. What have we got here? 68. It's an interesting looking sigil. Let's see. It's interesting. It like reminds me of something that would be hanging like in a garden. Let's see, what's 68? What's Cancer's blind spot? Okay. Self-harm. I don't know what kind of garden that is. Seriously, says self-harm. That's your blind spot. Yeah. Self-harm. Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to forget that one. Let me just write it down. Like, what? All right. A lot of times when we're in we'll go back to these doors real quick. A lot of times when we're in situations that are like, you know, and, you know, and occasionally it's just, it'll mess with our, like, I always say the power center. It's a very general term. It's, you know, I've said before that when I've had trouble like with my energy in like groups or just bad energy or whatever, like it's always been in what I would consider to be my power center, which is my solar plexus. And I always, you know, I always talk about like different parts, like, you know, when I would say, you know, like shutting down a feature, like your heart, say, let's say, you know, you go, oh, well, I'm just not open. I'm not open to, you know, I shut my heart off, or however people say it. You know, it didn't really occur to me at the time, actually for a long time, that I could be literally like shutting down that chakra. And I already know that when I'm in situations, and especially situations where my emotions are in play, like my heavy emotions are there, you know, a lot of times it's going to hit me like right here. And it's not even just about like the physical discomfort that you might feel, like if you hear, you know, news that's bad enough that your stomach hurts. It's like, well, it's a few things. It's that, but it's also like the prolonged, you know, effects of that. It affects other parts of your body. I always say, you know, if there's one chakra that's messed up, the chakras around it might be messed up. So we're not even just talking about this chakra. And every time we talk about paying attention to chakras, we always say, don't just pay attention to one. But this chakra happens to be on the table. And also with the power center, on top of like physical pain or whatever that you might feel in a relationship, you know, if somebody's like messing around with you, or if you just have like money problems, you know, you just don't feel good, you can't sleep, you know, you don't feel like you have many options, you know, you might even like overthink it to the point where it gets like extra, you know, because you're not doing anything about it. You're just kind of, you know, you're blocked. That's why you feel tied up. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. This self-harm, I'm not taking this as a physical thing, and especially not with all this stuff on the table, you know. Probably the worst thing here might be, you know, the way you think. It's not even just about the situation, it's messing with your money. It might be the way you think about money. You might even be lying to yourself about acquiring money, holding on to money, what money means, how important it is, anything like that, right? Just creating like blocks or, you know, some kind of friction to moving forward to elevate that understanding of. Right now we're just talking about the money, but we could be talking about anything. We could be talking about like the bad relationship, you know. Again, money could do this too, but then it starts to mess with other stuff. It messes with your confidence. It messes with, if you have a bad relationship, you're not extremely confident about going into the next relationship. You might be if you think for some reason that it was all the other person's fault and you didn't have any part in it. Sorry. But no, you always have your part in it because you were there, and a lot of times it doesn't feel like it, and I do understand that. But if you want to go through life thinking that you don't have control of it, then you just might as well go forward with this, because even if you didn't plan the behavior, if you weren't the person that was being deceitful, you know, you could have been harming yourself just by being around that person. You had a part in this. So the things that happen, I understand, like I get the frustration of I didn't bring this, or I didn't, you know, bring this kind of relationship, or I didn't, you know, however you want to look at it, especially when it's nasty enough, because you couldn't have even conceived it, let alone brought it. And I get that. But I think that one of the main things that people still either forget or don't want to learn is their part in it. You were there, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like some people, they feel like they're invisible, and especially people who aren't awake, I feel like. I mean, they might want to be seen, and they might have their own perception of whether or not they actually are seen, but a lot of times they operate like they're invisible. Like nobody can actually see like the things that they're doing. And I'm not even talking about important like angry, you know, conflict-y stuff. I'm just talking about like everyday stuff, you know. And if you have a situation where somebody's just always acting like that what they're doing is normal and it's not affecting anything and it's causing problems with you, even if you don't have a conflict with them, it's going to mess with your power center. It might even cause you to overthink. And then you can blame them if you want. But that's going to keep you stuck. That's going to keep you blocked, because you will leave yourself open to having that again, because you're not looking at your part in it. And then when you're upset, and I get it, sometimes things happen and they're upsetting, and any normal person would be upset. And I'm not saying to necessarily not be upset, but you definitely don't want it to like rule your being. You don't want it to cloud your thinking, you know? You don't want it to mess with other areas of your life. Because you might think at the time that you don't care, but you do. You'll care when it like affects something that you needed to go one way, but your attitude took it somewhere else because you weren't patient enough with the situation or whatever happened, you know? You have to get yourself to the point where, well, first of all, I was going to say, when things want to exit, let them exit. I understand a lot of times the things that we want to hang on to. I get it. But, you know, I have to say that regardless of whatever any of those things are, the force or the, well, I guess force is a good word, that some things try to exit your life in, and the amount of effort that it takes and energy it takes for you to try to hold on to those things a lot of times, again, not doing yourself any favors. You're leaving yourself open for more stuff that can come to you that's just like that, because you're pretty much letting the universe know, hey, no, don't take that away. I like it. I want to keep it. I want more of it. The universe goes, are you sure? Okay, well, you have to let that go. This open up to change and lead the way is here. I mean, take a reality check. Look, so we've got, you can't go back to yesterday. Take a reality check and manage to be glad altogether, which is kind of like move away from yesterday. Take a reality check tells me that you're not getting it. Like you're either still blaming someone else, not seeing your part in it, or just not realizing that it's like officially over. Like there's two sides to that. There's one person who still wants to be in it, and then there's another person that doesn't want to be in it, right? Not letting it go. Like I said, when things want to exit, let them exit. You're keeping yourself, you're blocked and tied up on the table. You can't go back to yesterday and manage to be glad. And manage to be glad on the table. And then open up to change and lead the way. And open up to change tells me, I mean, first you do have to, well, you have to release your blocks and cool your emotions. But in order to open up to change, you have to accept the way things are. I mean, you might be able to change if you're hanging on to yesterday. Well, that's actually a very general statement. Sure, you could change. You could probably change. You could probably hang on to yesterday and change. The question is, what are you going to change into? Because we get kind of messed up. Like we try to like redirect ourselves. Something happens and we kind of go, oh, I did that wrong. Especially if we can acknowledge it. Oh, I did that wrong. I picked the wrong person, or I let them, you know, that one thing that I didn't put my foot down and it just, they kept taking it further and further, or whatever little thing that we say that we can see, you know. Go, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And so we'll try to change to like affect that so that the next time we have a relationship, it doesn't go quite that way, right? But a lot of times if we don't like pay attention to what happened, and I don't mean like, again, overthink it. I just mean, I was trying to figure out a general way to say this. But I don't know. I've been thinking about one of the comments that when I was commenting earlier about how people are commenting. And I was thinking about one of the comments earlier that I saw earlier. And it was something similar to the nature of this reading. And, you know, the thing is we'll probably change. We'll probably keep changing. Like the relationship will probably change us. Even if we didn't don't want to acknowledge that we had a part in it, we'll probably change a little bit. Like I said, if it was bad, like if it was good, you know, again, totally different conversation. We might change, but we'll probably change for the better. The only reason why I say probably is because I can think of situations where people might, you know, like having a good relationship and not maybe wanting to give so much back and maybe even get a little lazy, and then that's not changing for the better. But for the purposes of when we conceive things to be negative in our lives, that's most of the time what gets us moving. The bad stuff, the deceit, the financial constraints, the storms, the self-harm, because we do something for so long that we get to the point where we go, well, I'm not going to do that again. All tied up, blocked, tied up and blocked. So even if you thought, oh, maybe I'm stuck. No, you're definitely stuck. Definitely stuck. And again, this card is telling you to release your blocks. It's not saying climb over them, you know, or, you know, try to figure. No, it's telling you to release your blocks. Again, like you have control. You know, cooling your emotions. I get it. Other people might get upset. You might get upset. I get it. Again, there might be a totally good reason to be upset, but you're not going to be able to really think about things in the way that they should be thought about. You're not going to be able to see all the good stuff that's available to you if you're upset about something that somebody else, I was going to say gave you, but, you know, gave you, took away, did, you know, when we can figure out where our control is, we can feel a little bit better about it. It's very easy to say, you know, I didn't learn anything. I mean, in my last relationship, I was kind of like that, where I was very confused. And I was like, what, you know, I got this notion, and I heard it more than once, that if I didn't figure out what happened in that relationship, it was going to happen again. And I was so like, oh no, what did I learn? Like I literally walked around the house for a couple days going, what did I learn? And the thing is, you know, it is really the most important thing. Like I said, you know, being in relationships with other people, there's two. It's not just them. It's you too. If you cannot sit down and say the thing that you might have done wrong, even if it was just allowing somebody else to behave in a way that you didn't want it to. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's what it's going to be. If you didn't bring it and somebody else acted unruly and you did your best, you put your best foot forward, you were honest, somebody else was deceitful, you didn't even know what was going on for a really long time. And then when you did figure out, it was just over or something. So you didn't even really get any closure. You know what I'm saying? The problem is that we say, well, I'm not going to have that kind of relationship. I'm going to go to this other person and I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick a totally different person and I'm going to go do this, right? And all those relationships could even look different to you. Every single one of them, you just failed relationships, right? One after the other, different stuff, right? So what happens when you look back and you realize that all those relationships were the same? They were different people. Everybody had different, like some people had more important roles, but when you really see like the underlying effects of like what you allowed somebody else to do, you realize like your part in it. What happens when all those relationships start to look exactly the same as each other? What happens then? Is that devastating? Would you even want to go back and live that again? When you look at every single relationship, I don't care if there's 12, and you say, well, that was terrible, but I'm not going to do that again, so it's okay. I'm fine. What if you looked back on it, maybe they were all terrible, and you looked back on them and they all looked the same, like to the point where you figured out that if you had learned what you needed to learn in the first relationship, you wouldn't have had to have any of those others. Chances are you would have had to have some of them or some other different kind of relationship that was a learning experience. That's a whole different set of cards. But honestly, like, if you had the notion that, because again, you can't go back and change it. If you had the notion that if you learned the first time, all those other times wouldn't have happened, how would that make you feel? What happens when decades have gone by in those patterns? Again, not patterns you brought. It wasn't like you were doing anything. You just were going from one person to the other. All kinds of people causing problems. You didn't see like the similarities in it. You're like them. This card right here, Lead the Way. There's several cards in these decks that talk about basically like being a leader, or one of the big ones that was coming out a lot was Step Up and Lead. And that card is like, if you see what's happening in a situation, you see it, you're the one that's supposed to make the change. You're supposed to open up to change. And this manage to be glad and cooling your emotions and taking a reality check and releasing your blocks is all part of moving that way. You can't go back to yesterday. It's all part of moving away from that stuff that other people were bringing you. Sometimes people get so like frustrated with what other people are bringing that they just swear off people. If you could control your own situation, right? If you didn't need to deal with like deceit anymore, if you could just be self-contained, but you didn't learn anything in your relationships, where do you think that would put you? I get that sometimes we don't want to learn things. It's hard to move forward, to do the work, especially the inner work, the healing work. I get all of that, right? That's hard to talk about, right? And, you know, some people, they don't have a hard time talking about like a spiritual awakening or elevating or trying to, you know, be spirituals. For some people, it's very personal. They don't want to talk about it. But for the most part, it's not a hard subject, right? What about the other stuff that you give up when you don't do the work? The stuff that's fun to talk about. That stuff that you're blocked from. What about that? I mean, I get sometimes being like, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to just do this. This person set me back and I don't need to, I'm just going to be glad that that person's not taking up any more of my time. I'm not even mad about it, you know. But again, there's stuff that's coming at you. It's either available or it's an option. It's definitely a door. I always say you can look at the door, you can look through the door, you can walk through the door. Right? You stand in the doorway if you want. But honestly, this is all like self stuff. This is all like taking care of you. This isn't even like self-care. This is just like, hey, you know, stop doing that thing that you don't like. Stop it. Right? Just understand that it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. I really do feel like blaming other people is self-harm. Like, I understand, especially when situations get so crazy and you just say, well, I wouldn't have created a situation like that. I wouldn't have created my life like that. I wouldn't have made that way, you know? The only thing I can really tell you to consider is if you've had more than one relationship like that, then consider what I'm saying about taking responsibility for your part in it. I have said that before in readings, but this reading is kind of like, hey man, stuff is all messed up. You didn't bring a lot of it, but you have to take the responsibility for what you're not dealing with. You might be bringing some of it if you're upset. You might be creating, you know, conflict, which is blocking you from all these doors, messing with your power center, causing you to overthink, maybe even lose sleep, right? Let it go. If these are trying to exit, let them go. Be glad you don't have to drop kick them out. Like, seriously. I mean, sometimes if you just, if you just accept sometimes the way things are trying to go for you, even if they, you don't like it, it's easier than trying to fight it. Because a lot of times when you do try to fight it, it just takes longer and the same stupid thing happens. It's like you just made it take longer, right? So something's trying to exit, let it go, especially if it's not treating you right. Just let it go. Doesn't matter how it exits. I know sometimes exits can be humiliating. People love to make it that way, especially if they know things aren't going right. It's kind of like quitting the job before they fire you. You realize your girlfriend's pissed, so you figure you go find somebody else before she can throw you out, right? And then you rub it in her face. You go, hey. Right? Just go, you know, what kind of kook do you have to be to do that? I really don't need you in my life, and let it go. Honestly. I always do say that if somebody does treat you a certain way, especially as a way that's like inconceivable to you, it's like a way you would not have treated them, consider who they had to be to do that specific thing. Not just that specific thing, but to you, the person that was treating them a certain way, because a lot of times, you know, we're treating them like we're genuine. So here we are, we're getting this deceit, we're being genuine, maybe sometimes for an extended period of time. And then we're like, you know, blindsided and we go, oh my gosh, you know, this person wasted all my, did this, did that. And again, think about who they had to be to do that. A lot of times when you know someone very well and you think about that and you actually figure out who that person had to be to do that thing to you, you realize that they don't deserve you. This is very easy to let them go. You want them to wander away. You've been giving too much for too long, right? So it's time to pull some more cards. I want some healing cards. I want a better insight as to if there is like specific self-harm. But I suspect that this is a lack of healing, possibly holding on to stuff, which is creating blocks, keeping you tied up. Wanting to retreat to the past, because there's a lot of it here, and resistant to change and the inability to see. So hopefully we'll get some answers there. Cancer. It's not terrible. It's just, you know, unpleasant. But yeah, this is your reading. Meet us over at the extended. If not, the link will be in the description. If not, until we meet again.